Hey guys, what's going on? It's Griffin back here again from Men vs. Movies on episode 2 of The Rundown. We got a lot to talk about today, so in case you didn't know, The Rundown is essentially just like a podcast type show where I'm going to be talking about the big things popping up in the world of movies and movie news and stuff like that. So today's show, we're obviously talking about Tom Holland's casting as the young Nathan Drake, and I've got a lot of thoughts on that. So you're gonna hear me rant for quite a while on that. But first of all, a piece of news dropped actually, and it's actually quite sad, but also really intriguing at the same time, both for two different reasons. So I'm going to go ahead and get to that first, and it has to deal with Zack Snyder and the Justice League film. Apparently, from a lot of sources, I'm looking at the one from the Hollywood Reporter right now, but apparently, back in March, this is incredibly sad, Zack Snyder's daughter actually committed suicide, and unfortunately passed away. And this is a quote from him. He has decided to take a step back from the movie to be with my family, be with my kids who really need me. And also, Snyder is not the only one stepping down from the project. His wife, Deborah Snyder, who is a producer or executive producer on the film, is also stepping down to be with the family as they should. Autumn Snyder, Zack Snyder's daughter, she passed away on during March at the age of 20. Her death has been kept private, with only an inner circle worth of people that knows what happened. And now the news has finally broke, and that is very, very tragic and very, very sad. Now and my heart goes out to the Snyders, truthfully, because Zack Snyder is a great guy. All the interviews I've seen from him, he just loves what he does, and he loves comic books. So thoughts and prayers going out to the Snyder family for that. But going to the interesting part of that, and that is the fact that Joss Whedon is actually stepping in to finish the picture. He's going to be taken over for post-production and stuff like that, and that is incredibly intriguing for multiple reasons. One, Warner Brothers must really be taking a liking to Joss Whedon, because he's going to be obviously doing the Batgirl film and all that stuff, and they must really, really like what he's doing with that to allow him to step in and finish the first outing of the Justice League. So that's crazy. Second of all, this is also going to be interesting because now Joss Whedon is going to be the only man who has been able to touch both the Avengers and the Justice League. So there's that. I mean, I think he's a great choice to come in and step in after all this tragedy and whatnot. He obviously is familiar with these team-up type movies. He knows how to give each character their own individual time. And granted, I mean, the movie has been shot. They're already in post-production, but maybe he'll be able to, in the editing process, help decide which characters get more screen time here and here and here. I'm sure maybe he will consult with Snyder when the timing is right. I don't know about that entirely, but it's just very, very interesting that Joss Whedon has already become, a Warner Brothers dude now. So it's pretty interesting. I think that if anyone was going to step in to help out Zack Snyder, Joss Whedon is the perfect choice here. But once again, it's not about Whedon stepping in. This is about a tragedy that happened to two really great people, a family, and this is something that no one wants to have to go through. So just to wrap up this little segment right here, my heart goes out to the Snyders. So yeah, moving on to the next topic, and really the what do you call it? The main topic of discussion for today, and that has to do with Tom Holland and Uncharted. So it's been reported today that Sony Pictures has officially cast Tom Holland in the role of young Nathan Drake for Sean Levy's Uncharted film, which I don't think it has a release date as of yet, but Sean Levy is on board to direct, so we've already talked about that. Sean Levy's an interesting choice. And it's even more interesting knowing that they're going into a young Nathan Drake route here. So I guess what they're going to be doing here is they're going to be kind of doing, I guess, like a young something akin to the adventures of young Indiana Jones, which I gotta say, for your first outing as Uncharted, not a fan. I myself, I'm a pretty big fan of the Uncharted franchise. I love the games. I think they're incredibly cinematic. They're a blast to play through. And this is what they're gonna do? Really? It's weird. And it's really weird. And I heard that, you hear Tom Holland being cast as young Nathan Drake, and apparently they're going to be doing a story that was alluded to in a flashback in Uncharted 3, the one where Drake first meets up with Sully, stuff like that. That's cool. It belongs in a flashback, though. I don't need a movie to tell me all of that stuff. So I hear this news, and it's just, the first thing that comes to my mind is, first of all, I know that it's Sony. So this really doesn't surprise me in that regard, because Sony is, they're I don't know. I don't like a lot of their decisions that they make, and you'll hear in one of the other things that's coming up here. But so yeah, I hear that Tom Holland is cast as young Nathan Drake. First, you hear that first, and you're like, oh, Tom Holland playing young Nathan Drake in flashbacks. That sounds really interesting. I think that's great casting. I mean, all this stuff. And now you hear that the film is going to be centered around a young Nathan Drake. That's not what the fans of Uncharted want. They want an Uncharted movie with Drake as an adult, going on these adventures, something that's a little bit edgier than Indiana Jones. I mean, that's what we, the fans of Uncharted, want. We don't want a young Nathan Drake. That's like they're doing that young Han Solo movie. That's like we get that movie, the young Han Solo movie, before we get Star Wars. What? It's really, really weird. The first outing for Uncharted, and they're gonna go out when he's like a kid. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do here. They're probably trying to keep him on for as many films as possible. I mean, they've already got him locked for Spider-Man, so might as well lock him up in another franchise. It doesn't sit right with me. I mean, granted, it's going to happen, and I think if this is the route they're going in, Tom Holland is a fantastic choice. I love the kid. I think he's a great actor, as evident from The Impossible and Civil War. I mean, there's really not a lot to not like about the kid, and I think if this is the route they're going with, he's great casting. But it's a real head scratcher there. I don't get it. It feels like Sony, they're like, oh, Tom Holland, he's great in Spider-Man. We got a great relationship with him. Oh, well, let's shove him into this other franchise. Let's shove him into the Uncharted franchise. What? It just feels very reactive to the casting of Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and I'm honestly really, really not digging what they're going with this. But what what can you say? It's happening, and there's really not much I can do about it. So what are your thoughts on Tom Holland's casting as young Nathan Drake? I'm curious to hear what you have to say, because it's not ideal if you ask me, but it's happening. So let me know your thoughts and opinions either in the chat board here or in the comments section below. All right, so moving on to another piece of movie news here. Now this happened over the weekend, actually, and I was meaning to get to it, but this was the only time that I could get to it. So it has to do with Tom Hardy's casting as Venom, and also a release date for the Venom movie. Tom Hardy, he's cast as Venom. That is fucking awesome. I think that is brilliant casting. A little bit different from what we just talked about with Sony and their casting of Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. But this casting is really, really spot on. I think Tom Hardy is one of the best actors working today. I think having him in the role of Venom is perfect. We already know he can play a pretty brutish type character well, as evident from his role in The Dark Knight Rises as Bane. And what's not to love about Tom Hardy? I think obviously just go watch the Revenant. His performance in that film is incredible. It's hard to believe that it is Tom Hardy. He really immerses himself in these roles, and so having him take on something like Venom is going to be incredibly interesting. He's going to be playing Eddie Brock, obviously. But then something else comes to mind. Tom Holland, a lot of Toms here. Tom Hardy is pretty particular about the projects that he chooses to be a part of. He doesn't sign on to something unless he feels really confident about it and he really digs it. So that says a lot about this Venom project, because if Tom Hardy is signing on to do this film, the script has to be fantastic, and he's got to have a lot of faith and confidence in this movie, because first of all, if he's signing on, it's obviously going to be a multi-picture deal. I mean, that's how these superhero things go nowadays. So we're going to be seeing Tom Hardy play Venom for a long period of time, and if he doesn't want to do it, then he wouldn't have signed on to the dotted line. So I think that speaks volumes about the potential that this project has. Now, obviously, there's room for studio interference and yada yada yada, but I think that this is a good sign for the Venom film, and it's going to be released next October of 2018. So it's coming sooner than I thought. The only minor thing here, which is going to come up regardless of whether Tom Hardy was casted or not. It really just when Sony announced the Venom movie, and it's going to be R-rated, it's going to be edgy, we're going to have carnage, maybe have a crossover or something, I don't know. But the only thing that comes to mind here is, how do you do a Venom movie without Spider-Man? Is Tom Holland's Spider-Man going to be allowed into this Venom universe or whatever is going on here? I mean, in the comics, Venom has had offshoots. He's had solo outings, and those are really interesting. But Venom works well when he's with Spider-Man. The two go together quite nicely because it's like yin and yang. One is the evil version, one is the good version. And so I don't know how this whole thing is going to shape out. I mean, obviously Sony has a plan for this R-rated spider villain verse with Venom and Carnage. Can't wait to hear what goes on with Carnage, because Carnage is a character I'm incredibly intrigued by, and he needs to be R-rated. I mean, his name is fucking Carnage, for crying out loud. He needs to have a bloody, intense film. But yeah, it's really, I'm really intrigued by what they're going to do with this Venom universe, and clearly they know what they're doing, because they're casting one of the best actors in the business to be in their franchise, or to lead off their franchise. So I think that is pitch perfect casting. I can't wait to see what Tom Hardy does. Seems like he's excited about the project. So what are your thoughts on the casting of Tom Hardy, or what are your thoughts on Tom Hardy being casted on Venom? Let's go with that. Can't speak for the day. Let me know in the comment section below, or in the chat board if you happen to be watching. Okay, moving on to the final topic of discussion today. Quite a bit here. It's a big meaty chunk here. So earlier today, Universal unveiled the title for their monster universe. It's going to be called The Dark Universe. That sounds interesting. The Dark Universe. And obviously the Mummy that is coming out this year is going to be kicking off the franchise with Tom Cruise and Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll, and which we would assume he would also be playing Mr. Hyde later down the road. But that's not all we got. Not just the title of the universe, but also we have confirmation that Johnny Depp is in fact going to be playing the Invisible Man, which I think that's great casting. Johnny Depp can play these characters really, really well. And yeah, he might have a few quirks here and there, but he wouldn't be Johnny Depp without those quirks. So I'm curious to see what he brings to the Invisible Man. I hope it's less Jack Sparrow and more, I don't know, something else other than Jack Sparrow, to be quite honest with you. I don't think it'll go that route, but we know he's a good character actor, so having him involved in this monster franchise is great. I think it's great casting. The next casting that we have is Javier Bardem as Frankenstein's monster. Not Dr. Frankenstein. Frankenstein's monster. Which, again, phenomenal casting. Javier Bardem, one of the best actors in the business, once again. Universal is really, really going for the top picks here as far as their casting goes. I mean, it shows that they're taking this shit seriously, and they want it to succeed. So that's good to hear from a universe that is starting out. So I have to say, I'm very, very impressed with these picks. Javier Bardem as Frankenstein's monster. He looks like he's going to kill it in, what do you call it? Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, as the villain. Clearly, he's, got CGI stuff and makeup going on there. So seeing him in the role as a monster, as this sort of person, it makes sense. I can see it, and I'm excited for what he brings to the table. So we have the two castings here, and also the next piece of news here has to do with the next film on their slate. So the next film that's going to be released in this monster universe is going to be The Bride of Frankenstein. It's going to be released February 14th, 2019. It was originally supposed to be coming out, or the next monster film was supposed to be coming out in 2018. That is not the case. They moved it to 2019, probably to make sure that all their stuff is going to be in line. They don't want to rush anything. They want to make sure that they take their time, put this universe together the right way, which I think is admirable, and I think that's the way you got to do it. You don't want to rush anything, as evident by the current status of the DCEU. But that's not it. We also have a director attached to the project. Bill Condon, who did this year's Beauty and the Beast, smash hit. I'm not the biggest fan of the film. I have a few issues with it, but he's going to be directing The Bride of Frankenstein, which is a very interesting choice. I don't know if I would have picked him, but once again, clearly Universal saw something in him to tackle The Bride of Frankenstein, and it gets me curious. I will say, though, that his production design, or what he was able to do with Beauty and the Beast and the production design there, was very impressive, and I feel like if he's able to translate that to The Bride of Frankenstein, which he should be able to, the movie's going to look gorgeous, and the set pieces are going to feel very much like the time period it takes place in. So that's some good news there. But yeah, Bill Condon directing Bride of Frankenstein. Sure. Let's see what happens. I mean, could be good, could be bad, could be average. Who knows? But I think it's safe to say that the Dark Universe, what the Universal Monster movies are being called now, they have a logo too. You can go check it out. It's pretty cool. It feels like a monster type thing. It's going to be interesting. It seems like they're taking things seriously, which is what I like to hear. They're not rushing. They want this to be able to compete with the other universes that are going out there and all that jazz. So with that, that's going to do it for the rundown for this episode 2. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the Dark Universe or any of the topics discussed in the comment section below or in the chat board, wherever you are. There's a lot of great topics, a lot of movie news coming out. I want to talk with you about it, so let me know your thoughts and opinions. If you have been watching this during the live stream, which it only seems like one of you has, thank you. If you're watching this at a later date, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this more casual, laid-back podcast type show. I'd love to hear your feedback on it. So yeah, that's going to do it for this. If you like this video, be sure to like it, share it with your friends, all your movie-loving friends, movie news-loving friends. And also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Men vs. Movies. We post movie reviews, do stuff like this every now and then. We're going to be starting up a new talk show soon, which, if you're curious about, I talked a little bit about it in the previous episode of The Rundown. So go check out that if you want to know a little bit about the new show that we're going to be putting together. You can also like Men vs. Movies on Facebook and follow us on Twitter simply by searching Men v. Movies. And lastly, guys, if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can always give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of The Rundown. Until next time, guys, take care.